Well, good evening and welcome to Arcade Pond, right there. We're out here on Arcade Pond. And here's the sole proprietor of Lovey's on Arcade Pond.
Yeah, Lovey's Garden Marketplace.
Yeah. And you can take a picnic lunch out to the island.
Is that really Arcade Pond?
No, I think that's, it's in town.
There you go.
It might be Meadow Pond. I don't remember an island on Meadow Pond. So
Yeah, I don't think so. But we do have an island out in Arcade Pond. I'm not sure
Yeah.
how big it is, but I've heard a lot of good stories of Boy Scouts going out there and camping out and things like that.
I don't know if the Boy Scouts ever camped. They had their camp over on Meadow Pond.
Well, I thought that was a Girl Scout camp.
No, there was a Girl Scout camp there, which has been since closed down. But where the swimming area was a Sea Scout camp. It was also used by Troop 155. And 145 would meet there in the summertime when they were still in existence.
Now, did Boy Scouts locate over by Harding's at all, the boathouse? Were they over there at all?
I don't recall. I mean, they might have been, but I don't recall it.
Right.
No, the Sea Scouts met on Meadow Pond where the town beach was, but the town beach has since closed because they didn't have the money for a lifeguard.
Uh-huh. Now, what's the difference between a Sea Scout and a Boy Scout?
The type of organization it is. The Sea Scouts were designed for sea. They actually related to the ocean.
Really?
Yeah, they had a Boston whaler.
Oh, very good. And so that's defunct now? There's no more Sea Scouts?
Oh, Sea Scouts disappeared years ago.
Yeah. Were you involved with any of that
No.
at the time? No.
I was in Scouts, but not Sea Scouts.
Well, we have a young man that works for us over at Lovey's that is in a Boy Scouts now, and just maybe 3-4 weeks ago, they still had an event over there. What was the name? Was that Kiwanis Beach or was Kiwanis?
No, Kiwanis Beach was at the end of Border Street.
Okay. What was the nickname for where the Girl Scouts went?
Oh, Hickory.
Hickory what?
Camp Hickory.
Camp Hickory, yeah. Yeah, I think my mother might have gone there way back when.
Well, yeah, way back when that was very active, and they had housing out there and everything else, but it's long gone.
Well, now, who owns that land now?
Well, the water company.
Okay.
Water company owns a lot of land around Meadow Pond.
Yeah, I know a lot of people aren't crazy about that idea, but it's designed to protect the water
Right.
quality,
Well, the White Machine Works owned it. When they bought the water company from White Machine Works, they got the land.
But do they actually draw water from there to drink? I mean,
They have wells.
so what's the purpose of owning Meadow Pond?
Well, the water from Meadow Pond actually feeds the wells.
Through aquifer?
Yeah.
So the Meadow Pond is like a holding body, and it.
Yeah. Originally, it was built to give water to the White Machine Works in the summertime when the Mumford River would be low. It was a backup because they ran the mill on water power.
What, like hydroelectric or
No, hydropower to turn everything before electricity.
So there were turbines that.
They did later on. They put in their own electric plant that worked off the turbines.
So Meadow Pond was like a holding body that
Yeah.
they opened a sluiceway to put water.
Yeah.
With, really, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Same with Carpenter Reservoir.
Really. So what is Carpenter? Oh, so Carpenter Reservoir drains into Meadow. Meadow
Right.
goes into what, the Mumford?
Mumford River.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I bet a lot of people in town wouldn't know that.
Well, yeah. You read the book, The History of White Machine Works, like I did.
Yeah, what's the name of the book they have at the library? The Spinning something or?
No, the Spindle is a magazine
Yeah.
that they have at the library. That was a magazine that the White Machine Works used to publish monthly.
Okay. And Spindle was the.
Well, spindles. They made spindles. They made textile machinery, and part of textile machinery is a spindle that finally puts all the thread on.
So did they just make the machinery itself, or did they make the cloth?
No, they made the machinery. That was it.
So they never made cloth there,
Not there. In the cotton mill, they made cloth.
where the cotton mill apartments are now.
Yeah.
And did one person own it?
Rockdale Mill. Yeah, the Whitens owned it.
So they owned both of them.
Yeah, different members of the family.
My grandfather Herb Henderson worked there for 30 years, I think.
In the cotton mill?
No, at the shop they call it.
Right, the shop. Yeah. They produced textile machinery, shipped it all over the world.
Now, back in the day, so to speak, what was the lower shop compared to where Cormark is now? Was that owned by the Whiten family? And
Yeah.
So what was in one building and what was in the other?
Well, that was a new division. That was basically what they called the screw job. They had screw machines and it made Pacific parts. And that's my father worked in that new part. That opened up in, had to be the late 50s, early 60s. I remember when they opened up, they had tours.
Really?
Yeah, my father worked in that part.
So this area really blossomed for the Industrial Revolution, right?
Well, that's because Samuel Slater came here from Scotland, and he had all the plans in his head on how to make textiles, which England had the only way of doing it on a heavy manufacturing basis. They were able, other than manufacturing in mills, it was all done in homes. People had with weaving machines. Very time consuming. You only made enough for yourself, or maybe a little bit for the town.
Yeah.
You know,
So would you say Slater is the father of the Industrial Revolution?
Yes, he is.
And what was that era? What year?
Well, that was probably around 1810, 1820 in that area.
So from 1820 to 19,
I'm not good on dates.
1950, there's like a 100-year spread. What was going on at the property across from Lovey's, like where Cormac is now?
Well,
and what was that called? The Upper Shop?
No, that was called they called it the arcade
Okay.
after the pond.
And do you happen to know where the arcade came from?
No, I don't know where the idea of arcade came from. I have no idea on that. Maybe it had a lot of what do you call it, pinball machines or
What, in the break room?
yeah. No, I don't know why they call it the arcade, but
Yeah.
you know where the Gulf station was at one point was a market.
Yeah, I heard that. And that was Arcade Market?
Arcade market, and had a full liquor license,
Right.
and they moved the license to the plaza and became Arcade Plaza, and Arcade Plaza is still there.
Where is that?
We're on the plaza downtown.
We're in Harry's Plaza?
Yeah,
That's Arcade Plaza?
no, Arcade Liquors.
Okay. So that was the
Arcade
same ownership?
package. Not same ownership, same name.
Same name. Well, you know, somebody, there's a Facebook page, I think it's called Blackstone Valley Reminiscent
Yeah,
Society, and someone from there shared to Lovey's site or to my personal Facebook page a picture from 1920 of a huge boathouse that was on Arcade Pond by the West School.
well,
Is that what they call it, the West School?
the West School was on that, where Water Street,
Sure.
and it's all trees now.
Yeah, but what was that boathouse about?
Well, don't forget, that whole area was wide open to the river.
Oh, right, you told me about that the last time, that there was a causeway there?
Probably, I don't know, you know, it was a causeway, but for the most part, it was open, and the shop filled it all in with the fly ash. That's why when they expanded on Cormac, they had to go down to hit the bedrock so they stabilized the building.
Right.
But part of the thing, they had that big pile, that's what that big pile of dirt is there, that's all fly ash.
Now, what do you think will happen to that? And why don't you maybe tell the folks that don't know what that pile of dirt, what's going to happen to it, and what just got permitted over there?
Well, it got permitted to put a automotive repair shop and car wash, as well as some rental units for,
Like a commercial
yeah, like they have in
condominiums,
Linwood.
right? Would you call it that?
Well, I wouldn't say condos, people get the wrong concept, but
Like an individual unit that you could
Yeah.
put a different business in.
you're right. With a garage on the bottom and an office upstairs.
So what will happen to that dirt that's there?
Well, they're gonna haul it out. They have a place to bring it. That's all been arranged.
Now, is there any reason to suspect that that material is not,
There's nothing wrong with that material.
No. I don't know anything about it, I just
Look at-
didn't know.
If there's anything wrong, how the hell did all those trees grow? There's a forest up there.
You're right,
Nobody seeded it.
right. So
I
just
told them, I
grew.
said, you know, not only get the dirt out, they gotta harvest the wood.
Wow.
There's a lot of wood up there, there's a lot of trees
Any
up there.
idea how long that pile's been there, or?
Well, it had to be, let's see, I'm gonna say, Cormac came here as AMD back in 1990. And then they did the addition probably around 2000,
Right.
so
So they've been there since.
almost 20
Do you know
years.
what Cormac does for their core business?
Well, they're distributors
To who?
to convenience market, to convenience
Right.
stores.
So guess who Lovey's earthworm and nightcrawler supplier is going to be.
They're gonna supply you with earthworms?
Cormac sells nightcrawlers and worms.
Oh, I don't know. I worked for them at one time, but
Yeah.
they didn't sell them when I was working.
No, they do. So they sell to the Douglas Extra Mart. Now, a friend of mine runs it, and I asked her about it, and she said, yeah, Cormac is our distributor.
Oh.
So I went in there and talked to the secretary or the lady there that was running
Yep.
the outdoor office, and she said, no, we don't sell that stuff. And then she said, but let me check. And she went back, and sure enough. So we'll be able to buy worms and nightcrawlers from them, as long as you keep them refrigerated.
Right.
They'll be safe and fresh and all that.
Oh, I didn't realize it. Well, that's something they added in.
Yeah, I just thought that was kind of a
Yeah.
neat irony.
Well, they carry quite a few different items
Right.
because they're total suppliers to the convenience store industry.
Sure. The trucks never stop there, Harry. I don't know if they do a 24-hour service shift or not, but the trucks are constantly parking
Well,
over there.
because they cover such a large area, they have trucks that actually go all the way out to Buffalo.
Sure. Well, they're probably, I would imagine they probably do milk and
They
perishables,
do
right?
milk, they do perishables.
So it would have to come in fresh. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Very good.
yeah. So they got a lot of fresh stuff coming in all the time, but their trucks are gone. Like the guy that that delivers to the Cape, he leaves in the middle of the night,
Sure.
so he can get down to P-Town. He gets down to Provincetown about 5 in the morning, then he works his way back
Well, that's interesting.
because of the traffic.
Sure. Well, they seem to be well respected in town. They have all their
Oh, they do a great job.
equipment is up to date. And,
Dave Pelletier runs it. I know Dave very well.
is he a local man or?
From Rhode Island.
Okay.
But he's been there a long time. He's head of it all now and does a great job. They do a great job. They supply a lot of jobs. They're looking for help all the time.
Well, I think one of the reasons is, one of the job descriptions there, I saw it, I think on Indeed, was you have to be in a freezer for 8 hours a day. I don't think I could handle that.
Well, there's people that can do it. You have to wear a winter coat.
Sure.
I've been in the freezer.
Well, I guess if you're warm-blooded or whatever the word is, cold-blooded, those
Right.
temperatures don't bother you. But, it was 45 degrees today, and I felt like I was in Alaska over at Lovey's.
Oh, I
It
know.
was just so cold.
Well, you talk about it. This weather's not helping your business.
No, it isn't, Harry. Do you think you could lend me a few thousand to get me through?
I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, this thing is just hanging on and hanging on.
Well, one thing, we just put some sides on the tent. They were only tarps that we got from, a local hardware or hardware store.
Job outlet.
Yeah. And they had the green ones. We wanted to buy up Koopmans. We went there first, but we wanted green because our tent is green. So anyway, we ended up putting them up all the way around. And see that curtain there, how it won't close?
Yeah.
So we went around and it wouldn't close tight. And I went back to the package and saw it. It's a 10-foot tarp, but it's only 9 foot 6 inches. So we bought 8 of them, and we were like 4 feet short by the time we came around.
So you need another one.
Yeah. But by that time it was too late, and we've been lucky because it's actually been hovering at around freezing. 35, 34, and that's too close for comfort. For some of these herbs are so tender,
Right.
you don't want to.
Well, if they're undercover, you're all set, right? As long as you don't
No.
get the dew on them.
Well, undercover, that's got to do with frost.
Yeah.
We have a freeze warning. So one of the services that Lovey's is going to do is when we get our sign, it has 3 lines of script. So we'll put up on the sign, freeze warning tonight, frost warning tonight, things like that. Unfortunately, we can't bring in the kind of stock we'd like to right now because we only have the one tent, and you could have thousands of dollars in stock, and it barely fits in one tent. But unfortunately, if it crowds around itself for too long, it needs air circulation to keep mildew and mold and things like that
And
off
don't
of
you
it.
worry, too, about someone going by at night and grabbing something?
I do. But, I bought a sign that said, this area under 24-hour surveillance. But I thought, that's really not true. It's under 24-hour neighborhood surveillance. So, the neighbors that live within, shouting distance of Lovey's have been really good about saying they'll keep an eye on it. And the fact is, I don't think I could worry about it to the point where somebody's going to steal $1,000 or $5,000.
Right, I don't think they'll pick that much. There's always, maybe a couple items here or there.
Right. But, I guess my word is to the people who are thinking about swiping from there, I've got a pretty good record of tracking down who has stolen from me in the past. Over at the Uxbridge Farm and Fairgrounds, we came in one night and I saw a plant that was missing from where it should have been. And this is no lie, I literally followed a trail back to this person's house of flower petals that were dropped in the woods. And I found out where it was, and this happened up in Douglas too. Somebody did some damage to some machinery I owned, and they were eating from a picnic and left papers and plastic and whatever, and I followed them right to the picnic. So I've got a pretty good record there. But when it's real busy, we're going to actually have probably a night watchman. It might even be myself. I'll sleep in my truck, keep an eye on things.
Yeah.
There's many thousands of dollars there of value that you'd want to protect. I don't know exactly what we're going to do. We'll probably have some cameras up at some point. So, if you think it's worth stealing a $10 or $20 plant and go to jail over it, I would think twice about it.
You get cameras are pretty cheap now.
Sure.
The only thing is you need electricity.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Harry. We've had some signs up for quite a while now that says live bait coming soon. And local electrician John Stratton just put the panel up today. It's a 200 amp service.
Oh, okay.
He was up there actually when I left to come down here, tidying up some work, and he thinks that by Wednesday we might have electricity.
Oh, now you'd be all set. Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
you can't bring in the night call. You have to keep it refrigerated.
Right, have to keep it refrigerated. Of course, right now it's so cold that they'd last without it.
Right.
But we have a food truck that has been running off a generator. He's excited to use electricity because it'll quiet the place down.
Yeah.
I'm excited to use it because I've had a cash register that's been battery operated. It just doesn't work the way I like it. It doesn't have the buttons on it that I can control, knowing how many herbs I sold, how many vegetables I sold, that kind of thing. When you track a new business especially, you'd like to know what's coming in, what's selling, what you should buy more of, what you should buy less of. We'll have security lighting along the pallets that I put on Main Street.
Yeah.
Just the old-fashioned.
It's a matter of National Grid coming in and putting the service in.
Right. Yeah, National Grid came out last week, told us what we could do, what we couldn't do. There's an existing pole there on the property that Tim Hare from Harborough owns. So at some point, once we get the rest of our permits in place, we'll take that pole that John, the electrician, put our service on and move it towards the water. And then John had a really great idea that would act as the lighting for our ice skating.
Yeah.
So it's just do everything methodically and in order, and instead of jumping around.
Well, you
too
can
much.
you can rent the light from National Grid. Not that cheap.
Well,
Not that expensive, rather.
About 10 or 15 years ago, when I had it at the fairgrounds, it was only about $100.
I think they're even
month.
less now because you get them under LED.
Okay.
What the town is converting, they've already started conversion to LED.
Well, Harry, I don't know if you knew it, but the expense comes from the telephone poles.
Right.
If you have service already, they're not going to give you a pole. So the poles would have to be expensive. And I asked the fellow to even quote me, and he said, "You really don't even want to know." So when a monopoly tells you don't want to know the price, you don't want to know the price. But at some point, I think what we might utilize, like we did in Uxbridge, there's a generator-driven light, a light pole they call it. So
Yeah.
it comes folded. You unfold it and then you crank it up with like a boat winch.
Right, I
from
know
a boat,
I know exactly
and
what
it
you're
goes up and
saying.
up and up.
Yeah.
And it has 4 lights.
Right.
And you'd put one at one end of the pond and or the parking lot, one at the other, and it would shine quite nicely. Where the
Right.
kids are going to skate. Problem with that is it is a little noisy, but I think that we'll have it resolved by wintertime. If the sun would come out, we could make a few bucks that we could, put into the boating, put into the winter. Put a little kiddie side. I'd like to stop buying firewood so I could have that to sell through the winter. But the weather is just, atrocious right now.
Now, how about credit cards? You're going to start taking those eventually?
Harry, I don't know that I will. I really don't.
A lot of people don't even carry cash anymore.
I know that, but what we're trying to offer is something different, something like these Gilberti's herbs. This comes from a man named Sal Gilberti out on the Connecticut-New York border. He's actually been on the show with Martha Stewart, not the Martha Stewart Snoop Dogg show, but the original, home cooking and things like that.
Right.
He's very well thought of. He's actually the largest supplier in the Northeast of USDA, U.S. United States Department of Agriculture,
Right.
certified organic herbs, spices, fruits, and vegetables. Now, I asked you last time, so I'm going to try to catch you if you remember. What's the difference between a spice and a herb? Do you remember?
Oh, geez, I can't remember now. Wow. it's a leaf and,
Yep. Keep going, you're almost there.
yeah, I know one's a leaf, the other one's a berry or,
No, so there's a thing here, this is basil, and Harry, I took the liberty to look at, you told me last time you're of heritage, Polish heritage, so this is apparently one of the things that people would use. This is a sweet basil, and a friend of mine from Douglas, his name is Fuddy Colinero, old Italian gentleman, used to take the leaf and he'd roll it up. Now, it smells so wonderful. Take a whiff of that, Harry, if you don't mind.
I really can't smell it then. I don't have a good sense of smell. I lost it with I was sick at one time.
Oh, okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry about that.
No big
But
deal.
so this
I'm still
smells wonderful.
alive.
Yeah, so this smells really wonderfully. So anyway, what they would do in old Italy is roll it up, and they'd put it behind their ear. And one of the things that I was talking to Sal Gilberti on the phone this morning, there's a couple of reasons why they do that. First of all, the smell is so pungent; they just love the smell. So it's like wearing a perfume, believe it or not, for the Italians. But another thing that Sal told me was it's a signal. So when you're out with a girl and you're dating her, that means that that's your girl. That's the girl you intend to marry or that you're in love with. So, I just learned that today.
Wait, only if you put the basil behind your ear, that's the one you're gonna marry? If you
Yeah.
don't put the basil, you're not gonna marry.
Yeah. If you put it on your head, it means stay away.
Oh.
But anyway, so these are very, very tender. We have to be very careful about those. So the difference between herbs and spices are, herbs, you're right, come from the leaves. The
Yeah.
spices come from the seed of the plant, the root of the plant, or the bark of the plant.
Oh, okay.
So if you think of cinnamon, if you
Yeah.
ever gone anywhere and had a cinnamon stick,
Right.
it's all rolled up,
Yeah.
well, that's actually the bark. So that bark, goes in a drink, I don't know, hot toddy or,
Well, you use it in whiskey too.
sure. So that's the bark. And now then what they do is they grind it down to get the actual cinnamon flavor that you
Right.
have on a donut or,
Yeah, the powder,
Right.
cinnamon powder.
right. So one of the things that we have is actually a cinnamon basil. And the basil, there's, 20 or more kinds, but the cinnamon basil is used for like desserts, something you'd want a sweet smell
Yeah.
to.
Well, cinnamon is actually good if you're diabetic. Supposed
Why
to
is that?
lower-
Because it doesn't have a lot of sugar in it, but still has
No,
a
it's
flavor?
supposed to
or-
lower your sugar.
Really, I didn't know that.
That's something I read somewhere, and I'm diabetic, so I do use it.
Really?
Yeah, I sprinkle on cereal in the morning.
Well, a couple other things we have here, Harry, is some mint. And one of the mints here, this is a chocolate mint.
Oh.
And so I looked up, on your behalf about what the Polish people use. They use a lot of peppermint, right, for
Yeah.
tea. So what you would do is, now should I be looking at that or you or?
No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So,
If you're talking to the people, you look at that.
okay, so here I am, folks, going to tell you about chocolate mint and spearmint and peppermint. There's black peppermint, there's a
The
white
red
peppermint.
light. See the red light? That's the camera that's
Oh,
on.
come on, Harry, you're going to make me do homework here? So the difference between black peppermint and white peppermint is the actual stem. It's generally black on the black peppermint and white on the white. Now this is a chocolate mint, and this is chocolate black peppermint, and you take these leaves off, and they actually smell like chocolate, like a chocolate bar.
Oh,
So you know how sometimes you go to a nice restaurant. Remember Cock and Kettle in Uxbridge?
yeah,
And you left there. Remember the little candies they gave?
yeah.
Menthes or what was it called?
Andes.
What was it?
Were they Andes?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, Andes
But
chocolate.
remember, it was like a mint chocolate.
Yeah.
So
Those are Andes.
so that's what this is. It's the
Oh.
smell of mint and chocolate at the same time.
Okay.
So you would take these leaves off and you'd steep them in hot water for about 3 to 5 minutes. The oils would be infused into the water. You'd add a little sugar or a little honey or something like that, and then you'd have a nice drink for yourself.
Oh.
But again, these are USDA certified. Can't really see the tag, but there's a difference, Harry, between an organic and a USDA certified. Any idea what that might be?
Well, USDA certified is, in other words, was certified by the Department of Agriculture. They inspected it and they approved it.
That's the key right there. It's the inspection. So Sal Gilberti told me this morning that, in fact, when he does his herbs, it's a lot different than someone who claims to have an organic garden.
Well, I understand there's a question, it's been questioned in the past, that there's no government certification for organic. Anybody can say organic.
That's right. And you know what? You know what Sal told me today? And what he said was that a farmer who, like locally, there's some, now I don't know if these people are doing it, but there are local organic farms that are actually
Right.
growing some of these things.
Right.
All they have to do, Harry, is promise to try to be organic, and they can label themselves organic. Sal is under a much different, more stringent
Well,
rules.
he's being inspected to be organic,
Here's the key word hit for him. He's being audited.
audited,
So federal government, what do they like to do? They like to make rules and spend money.
right,
So the federal government has made this rule that if you're going to call yourself USDA certified, that you have to be inspected, as you say, and audited. So they come in, and one of the main differences is from a regular organic product and a certified organic is you have to be certified from the ground up, literally. Your ground has to be organic.
right.
Your seed has to be organic. Your
Well, your ground is organic, I mean, nothing's more organic than dirt.
well, you might think that, but if you were to buy a
Can't
farm,
add any fertilizers, chemical fertilizers,
that's right, that's right, that's right. Do you remember?
and no GMO products,
Right. Do you
no
remember?
GMO seeds.
Do you remember the old Thanksgiving story of the Pilgrims and the Indians? What did they teach you in school? How did the Indians fertilize?
Well, they use fish,
That's right.
yeah,
So what I do, or I have done, hopefully my plants will come in and out so quickly that I don't have to fertilize them. But what we do to fertilize on site, the organics, we use an organic fish emulsifier. It's basically fish flesh and all that that's ground up,
yeah,
you know, mixed with liquid. You put it in a sprayer or a pump or whatever, and you fertilize it.
right,
But we're hoping that once the weather breaks, you know, the product will come in and come out so quickly that we won't have to fertilize much. I had a restaurant once in Douglas, and for a whole year, we didn't even use a heat lamp because my timing was so good that it come out of the fryer later, for instance, you know, because I did a lot of fried seafood, as you might remember, come out of the fryer later, go to the counter, and then go right out to the customer. So that's one of the things I think I'm blessed with is a good timing, and we're hoping that the plants don't sit around. If they do, we actually have what I call half-price hospital. So we put the plants in the hospital, and there are people come by, and they'll literally go over and say, oh, I can take this home, I can take care of it. It's sort of a challenge to them. And then we don't lose any money, and, you know, it's just a win-win situation, you know. I just wanted to...
You're finding more people buying herbs today?
Yeah, it's there are not a lot of places around that have a good variety.
I mean, people like to buy flowers to dress up their house.
Right, but you know what it is? There's a whole movement around the organic movement. You know, I would call it a buzzword. So when you have a buzzword of organic or certified organic, people come from far and wide. In other words, Sal's, one of my closest competitors is actually Whole Foods, but the closest Whole Foods is, you know, 15 miles away in Bellingham or
Shrewsbury now.
16 miles away in Shrewsbury, right? Remember the old Spags store?
Yeah.
What a travesty that was to have Spags taken down and now there's a Whole Foods.
Well, when Spag died, so did Spags.
Yeah,
I mean, the family was not into it like he was.
right. Well, you know, I thought about maybe doing a tomato giveaway like he did, but I understand one of the local companies, you know, has done that in the past, so maybe we'll do it, maybe we won't, but maybe we'll have a herb giveaway. And I have this crazy hat that I might wear to look like Spag and, you know, just to kind of have some fun. I mean, one of the things we want to do at Lovey's is maybe not take life so seriously, you know, enjoy gardening and...
Well, he gave out tomato plants, but that was, people were lining up to buy their fertilizer and everything else.
Right, he wasn't, he didn't do it just because he was generous.
Right.
He did it sort of as a loss leader. I mean, you know what that is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right, and I heard that he gave away 25 plants, though. You know, they long and skinny, and they were, you know, seedlings. They weren't established like this,
Right.
but they were like fingerlings, but you'd go home and you know, they would actually work. I wanted to talk about this for a second, but before I do, I want to finish that tomato story. Now, if you have a long tomato like that, do you know how far to put it in the ground, or?
No, I haven't planted. I've done tomato plants in the past. I haven't done it lately. It's only the wife and I. It's not worth it. It's cheaper for me to go out and buy a couple of tomatoes.
Right, well, one of the things we're going to do, and sure, I'm sure area places will do it too, is we'll have deck planters. You know, my stepdad up on the lake on Whiten Reservoir, we're going to get some for him. So if you don't have a lot of room, we're going to have these round pots about this big, very deep, you know, because the deeper the pot, the further the roots go. Now,
Well, how about the hanging ones? those seem popular too.
Well, yeah. Have you ever seen those things called topsy-turvy, the
Yeah.
little crazy plastic things at CVS?
Right.
Just looks like a bag.
Yeah.
You fill it with dirt. Those things work phenomenally well. The key of those, though, is you don't want a very heavy tomato like a beefsteak or a Brandywine. You want like a Celebrity or a Fantastic or, Jetstar or something with a, smaller fruit about this big.
Right.
3, 4, well, maybe 4 inches, because as that fruit, literally is what it is, tomatoes are fruit, as that fruit is on the vine, you don't want to get so heavy that it breaks off.
Right.
And here's another key to those bags. You're supposed to plant 2 plants in there and let them grow to about 6 or 12 inches long, and then whichever one is the weaker, you cut it, and then all the energy goes into growing that one left reserve plant. Now you can go on eBay and find these topsy-turvies for $8 or $10. I think at one point CVS or Walmart would sell them, and they're almost 15 a piece. They're just made of nothing, really. I don't know why they're so expensive, but they do work. And what's cool is, as the plant starts down, when the sun finally comes out, they curl up, searching
Yep.
for the sun. So as they curl up, they have all the flowers going, and then, of course, then the tomatoes get on it, then they come back down.
Right.
So it's really a interesting thing. A phenomenon, actually, of God's, beauty and fantastic variety of plants and things like that. But another thing they have is in a regular hanging plant, they put a tomato plant in there called Tumbling Tom.
Yeah.
And it's just a little cherry tomato about that big, but they're what's the word? They proliferate, yeah. There's lots and lots of them. And they just fall over.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
The cherry tomatoes get huge amounts,
Right.
like almost like grapes.
Sure. We sell lots of grape tomatoes. Now, Harry, I wanted to test your knowledge about tomatoes. Do you know the difference between a yellow tomato and a red? What's the basic difference?
No, I'm not sure. I don't really know.
Well, if you get a yellow tomato, folks, it's less acidic. So,
Oh, okay.
so if you have a problem with acidity,
Well, do you know what country tomatoes are native to?
Harry, are you trying to stump me in front of the people?
Well, you asked me if I know anything about tomatoes.
What is it? Italy?
No.
What? China?
America.
Okay.
Europeans didn't know what tomatoes were until they came here. And for the first, pilgrims wouldn't eat them. They thought they were poison.
Well, of course, pilgrims wouldn't eat lobster either, remember?
Right. But
They used it for fertilizer.
But they thought tomatoes were poison.
Why is that?
And probably because of the high acid amount content in tomatoes. And if you weren't used to acid,
Right.
you could almost feel like it would. But then when they learned they were good, they became very popular.
Really?
Same with the potato. Potato's not native to Ireland or anywhere else. Native. You know where potatoes came from? Peru.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Peruvians grew tomatoes, and the Spanish found them, brought the concept back, and it became very popular. And one reason they became popular is Europeans warred all the time. There were always wars going on. Well, if they invaded, they would stamp out all the wheat with the invasion.
Right.
They cross over. A lot of the battles were held on open fields.
Right. Sort of like in the old days where they would wipe out a food supply, like in Vietnam or German wars. Or
Well, no, they'd wipe out the wheat because they were fighting over it. They were, having
I
the
thought
battles.
I thought you were
Because
going
of
to
the
say.
battles, they would trunch over it. But the potatoes always survived because they were underground.
Right. Well, I don't know if you'd guess why garden centers don't sell a tomato or generally onions. Do you have any idea why?
No.
Well, because they're inexpensive.
Well, yeah, they're pretty
You know,
cheap.
you could buy them so cheaply at Walmart. We're not going to sell you a 6-pack for $2.99.
Right.
And we can't sell them for $1 because you can't make 50 cents on a sale. You know,
Right.
you need to do that. But Walmart actually has a great thing, folks. I'll let you in on a little secret. They're called onion sets, and these onions are red onion, white onion, yellow onion, and they're $3 for a package, and they may almost be 100 bulbs in it. And it's just a little tiny onion about the size of your pinky, and for years you couldn't find them around here.
Cocktail onions.
Well, no, they start off small, Harry, but they get bigger.
Oh,
So what you do is you take this onion, and the part that is the bottom of the onion,
right.
you'd put in the ground.
Right, that's the part you eat.
Right, you could put that in the ground now. So onions are very cool tolerant, but so onions. I went to Walmart just to make sure that I was correct, in my assumptions, and there are white onions that go for $2.48 a pound, so maybe my onions could be 3 or 4 ounces, but get to 4 ounces or 5 ounces, but I still don't think it's cost productive or cost effective. So we don't carry a lot. We have some.
Right.
But I just want to let the folks know you could go to Walmart. The Ocean State Job Light has a few, but Walmart has the best price and the best quality. The little pearl onions, I think, are what you're talking about. I really can't stand them.
Yeah, they're cocktail onions.
Yeah, well, remember as a kid, we used to have those with peas.
Yeah.
Did you have those? Peas and onions?
Yeah.
Or like a little milk
yeah.
cream sauce? I detested them. So maybe I'm not selling them out of protest. Yeah. But let's talk about this real quick. This is rosemary, and there are 5 or 6 different types of rosemary, and this one is called barbecue. So you think of rosemary on a chicken, I think of rosemary like on a roasted chicken. And you take up
rosemary leaves.
That's right. So these are the leaves. You take them off, you crunch them up. Now there's nothing like having it fresh. So these leaves basically dried up, and you buy them in a can. You still have that rosemary flavor, but literally when you taste this on some food or that basil in a fresh sauce, it's like taking a drug. Like you can't get enough of it, or eating your favorite cookie, or you just you just eat and eat and eat because it tastes so wonderful. But this is called barbecue rosemary, and the reason this is different from typical is it has the same flavor essentially, but you see these stalks here? They're much stronger and stiffer. So what you do is you break one of these off. I won't do it now because I'm going to have to try to sell this tomorrow if the sun comes out. And you break these off, and you dip it in olive oil or melted butter or margarine, and then you brush your meat or your chicken or whatever, and it stands up over that, I can't think of the word, but over the use, or the action. And then when you're done, you can actually toast it on the barbecue grill, folks. So you put it on the grill, and then when you're done, your meat or your chicken, you could take it and then just crunch it up over on top of the chicken. So what happens is, these are also a little bit mosquito repellent, but the only way anything like trying to think of the word, marigolds, anything that is being advertised as mosquito repellent, the only way they work is when the leaves or the buds break, and it breaks oil into the air. And so when the oils of these plants get into the air, then it drives the mosquitoes away.
Oh.
So it's sort of a misnomer that they,
So just having a bunch of marigolds around your house isn't gonna
I'm
help.
really not going to do a lot, Harry. No. And but that's just my opinion. Of course, you can get a second opinion, but that's just the way I read that. There is a program out called Jeepers Creepers, and they are herbs that you walk on. And one of the ideas is if you were to plant them in between like a rock walkway or somewhere in your garden, you'll step on them, and then you put the aroma into the air, and those oils will now drive the mosquitoes and bugs away. So that's just a thought, but this is barbecued rosemary.
Actually, we don't have that problem now because it's so cold.
Right, but at some point we will, God willing.
I'd like to see it get warmer.
Right, unless we're in the ice age, and we're in a new ice age.
Well, that's a possibility. I'll tell you. It's damn. If you go south, New York City was 70 degrees today.
Well, we're at Lovey's, 360 Main Street, just in case anybody doesn't know where it is, across from Cormark, on Arcade Pond, is, for about 10 minutes today the sun came out, and I had this heavy jacket on, I took it off. 15 minutes later I had it back on, and it was raining.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, what do they say in New England? If you don't like the weather, wait
a second.
Yeah, wait a second, or a minute, or...
That's actually, Mark Twain said that.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well, I was just saw on television on a news program that
We actually said, wait a minute. Yeah. If you
Wait a
don't like
minute,
the
yeah.
weather in New England, wait a minute.
well, this weather forecaster said that we had 21 out of the last 30 days wet and rainy.
Yeah. This has been horrible, and the long-range forecast is for the rest of May.
Yeah, that's not good for me.
No, but then again, the long-range forecast at the beginning of April was for seasonably warm. So how right are they?
Harry, how would you like to have a job that you get paid for even when you're wrong?
Oh, I know, it's a great job.
Unbelievable. This is another herb. This is called lavender. Has a wonderful smell, Some of these will
Oh.
grow 6 or 8 inches high. This is just what we call a start. It's not a seedling because it's not small, but it's a start. So these will get bigger. And one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to carry fresh squeezed lemonade. We have a food truck up there called the Ultimate Grill.
Right, I seen it.
Yep. So a fella's out of Shrewsbury, I think. He's very big. He's actually going to be in the Esplanade when the 4th of July fireworks come. He had 4 or 5 units up at the St. Patrick's Day Parade up in Worcester at Christopher Park or wherever that parade was held.
It's on Park Avenue.
Was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what it usually happens. I don't know if it was this year, but usually it's on
So,
Park.
he would go to carnivals and things like that. And one of the things he does is a fresh squeezed lemonade with real cane sugar, good fresh clean water, and fresh squeezed lemons. And what I want to teach him how to do is what they call lavender lemonade. So lavender is an herb,
Yeah,
and we're going to take the leaves off, and you put them in, again, boiling water. Because the leaves are a little thicker than some of the other things we talked about, the mint, you might have to leave it in there a little longer, maybe an hour. But so you put the boiling water in, it steeps it, it takes all the flavors out of it, it infuses itself, with the flavors from the leaves. And then what's great about this is it turns purple. So you'll get this great lemonade.
it turns lavender.
Yeah, right. That's right. Exactly, Harry. So you take this lemonade, you make this great lemonade with a fresh piece of lemon in it, and then you add the mix. It's called a simple syrup. So you have sugar, water, and then the lavender. I went to culinary arts at Valley Tech, and they teach you about simple syrups. Sugar and water.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you were to get a cake at a bakery, in order to keep it fresh and moist, they take water and sugar, mix it together, this simple syrup, infuse the cake now with that, and it keeps it moist for a good long time. So anyway, getting back to the lavender, it's going to turn purple. You put it on top, but the neatest thing happens. It doesn't just mix ordinarily, so you've got purple and then you've got yellow. You could shake it up if you want to, but it looks great, it tastes great. I had a great glass of it over at the Herbs Make Sense. It's a new restaurant over in the Pythian building.
Yeah,
I don't know if you folks have been out there, but one of the services that I hope to do just sort of as a public service is, along with telling you about the weather and things like that, is to sort of recommend area restaurants that I frequent or that people have talked about on our own Facebook page, which we'd love to invite you to join us, Lovey's Garden Marketplace. We've had over 50 people a week for the last 8 weeks join our site. It's organic growth. It's doing fantastic. Ironically, using the word organic. There's nothing special I've done, but just, when we've been in the newspaper or on your show, Harry, just invite people over. But anyway, getting back to Herbs Make Sense, a wonderful woman there named Terry who's done a phenomenal job there. She has great meals and great teas, and she's probably going to buy some plants from me at some point, but she also has her own supplier, so it's not like I'm here plugging her for that reason. But I have lunched there quite often, and she made this fantastic lavender drink, and it's hard to describe exactly what it was, but it just had a nuance of flavor that was different. I drink a lot of soda, and I'm not proud of that. I drink a lot of Mountain Dew, Coke, Pepsis, things like that.
Oh.
And to get something with a pure drink, like this lavender lemonade, was just wonderful. So shout out to Terry at Herbs Make Sense. I hope you guys go visit her. Lovey's highly recommends her business in the Pythian building, across the street from Jack Walker's office.
well, a little further down.
Yeah, but sort of across the street, diagonally.
More so across the street from the municipal parking lot.
Harry, are you trying to call me out on this?
Well, no, because I tell you, Jack Walker is,
You're right, though. You're right.
Yeah.
It is directly across the street.
yeah.
I'm angled across the street. Harry, you're too much. It's on the same side as the Baker building. How about that?
Yeah, it's actually next to the Baker building.
And what was on the left side? What was there
On the
before?
other side of the street?
No, on the other side of where Herbs Make Sense is now. What was there?
Oh, the ERA is in there, and then.
What was there? What was next to the Pythian? Remember Rogers Bakery?
Oh, yeah, Rogers Bakery. You know what it was before Rogers Bakery?
No.
Punjab's.
Was that the same building?
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it was the where the office, the lawyer's office was.
No, the lawyer's office was a house. It's still a house.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, remember what a wonderful job.
Well, actually, no, Punjab's is where the welfare office is now. assistant's office. That's right, that's changed around.
Okay. Well, I was just kind of reminiscing about Rogers. Remember how good a bakery
Oh,
product he
Rogers
had?
was, a lot of people miss it.
Of course they do.
But, you know, he got tired of getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go and bake cakes.
Yeah, well, Roger, wherever you are, we miss you. You did a fantastic job. I remember my grandmother from Crescent Street over in the village, just up the street from Lovey's, used to get the pecan rolls and put them on top of the refrigerator, and she'd ask us to go in and get whatever we wanted, and I would always go for that.
Well, you know, you don't see a lot of bakeries anymore.
It's too much work, Harry.
Yeah.
I had a bakery myself in Douglas.
You have to get up early in the morning,
Yeah,
and you know, and you get a long day.
you do, and there's a help issue. You
Yeah,
know,
you can't find any help.
well, and then there's always a problem, or what if somebody doesn't show up and you can't take a day off?
Right.
The thing about Lovey's is, you know, it's a sort of hit or miss. So when the weather's great, you know, we hit it, and when it isn't, we miss. But, you know, my son's coming on board. I hope Lovey herself
Right.
comes over at some point.
Any business expect to work a lot of hours.
Sure,
Because that's the nature of business, being in your own business.
sure. Well, my Uncle Flaxy used to own a place in Douglas, and he said that nobody's ever going to treat your business like you will,
Right.
you know. So you have to be there.
Oh, yeah, you have to. You can't run a business as absentee.
Right. Well, you know, I got up early this morning. It was like 5 o'clock, and I thought, you know, I should probably go in and do some things and paint those signs. And I'm not crazy about my signs, folks. We're working on a much better one.
I gave you a good idea. I'm telling you.
Harry's got a side business going with signage.
No, I don't even know the person. I just,
All right, so tell everybody what you're trying to get me to do.
no, people will tell you there's signs down at Plymouth Corner on the Burger King side. There's a sign out there that says, custom sign, $1.99.
I think that's Burger King offering a
No, it's not.
bargain on
No,
a
it's
burger
not
Friday.
Burger King. If you go to the top of Benson Road, where Benson Road and Highland Street are, there's a sign right there on the corner that says the same thing. He's got them all over town.
Really?
Yeah,
For $1.99?
yeah.
Well, I don't know. How
Because
many...
it's corrugated plastic, and they
Sure.
print it like with a computer. They map it out on a computer, and then they print it.
Well, this is why I question it, because I was at Home Depot buying some corrugated plastic. About this big, it cost me $7. How in the world are they selling those things for $1.99 when the plastic
Well,
costs?
for one thing, it's not that big. They're the size of a political sign.
Okay.
So was that probably 18 by 12 inches?
Yeah.
All right, and he's probably buying it by the trailer load, where you're going to buy a couple pieces at Home Depot. Let me tell you, Home Depot is making a good profit on that. They have to make something,
Sure.
and that's one item they probably make a good profit on.
Right. Well, I might look them up. I just keep thinking, though, the Burger King's advertising $1.99 hamburger, and you're thinking they're
No,
giving
it's
away
not.
signs.
I'm telling you, it says you. If anybody saw him, you can call and
Harry, you're
back
not going to
up
hit me,
on
are
that.
you? Your voice is getting loud.
No, I'm just telling you that's the fact. They actually, I couldn't believe this guy had a sign, but that's what political signs run.
Yeah,
Guys run for politics. They'll tell you. They pay about $2 a sign.
really. Well, how many signs do you think the building inspector will let me put up there before he'll get mad at me?
Well, you can limit it, but you can put up a number of them that give different prices.
Yeah. Well, I just want everybody to know we have a much, much, much nicer sign coming. It's about...
What you do is, remember the Burma shave?
Sure.
Well, you start at Walmart. And,
Yeah, well, don't they do that with that, what's that Mexican,
south of the border.
yeah, you see them for hundreds of miles, right?
Yeah,
It's like by the time you get there, you're so sick of it, you'll stop in just to shut them up, you know?
it's the ultimate tourist stop.
It is.
And you know why I say that? Even the toilets they charge.
Really?
They're all paid toilets. I've stopped there.
I gotta love a guy who charges for a toilet, man.
I know.
Capitalism is king,
Yeah.
Harry. You know, I ran a marina down in Rhode Island for a while, and I got it in my head that we had a porta-john there, and I actually found a coin-operated thing, and I put it on the porta-john. At the end of the day, on a busy day, the place would be chock full with quarters. But what I know,
If you're stuck, you're stuck.
well, right. But what I noticed was somebody would go to the bathroom, and just to get at me, they'd hold the door open for the next 15 people,
Yep.
because they didn't want to pay me. I don't blame them, but I just had got such a kick out of that. But look at it. We only have like 10 minutes left. I want to show you one more herb, and I did bring this one again in your honor because it's a bay leaf.
Yeah,
Now, you're Polish, right? You have
Yeah.
a Polish background. What, do you remember any recipes that your mom or grandmother might have made with bay leaf?
well, my father was Polish, and my grandmother didn't live with us. She was a few miles away, so I really don't know. But I think my mother used to put it in spaghetti sauce, I think.
Well, sure, but that's an Italian thing. So what kind of, did your mom cook you, even though she was Italian side, did she cook you Polish favorites for your dad, or?
Well, no, about the only thing she made was kielbasa.
Okay. So what kind of foods did you eat growing up? Like, what were your favorites?
Well, I love kielbasa.
But how about a sauce? Was there any kind of, or galumpkies, right? Do you know what a galumpkies are?
Oh yeah, she never made galumpkies, but
Really?
I don't like cabbage.
Harry, I spent all afternoon picking out herbs for you because you're Polish heritage, and now you're telling me you're Italian.
But my mother was French, and I'm married to a girl that's all French, so
Well, we have French tarragon. We sell French fries. Does that matter?
yeah.
Well, so let me tell you real quick about this.
I worked for McCormick, so I'm familiar with a lot of this stuff.
That's right. I asked you that last time. Remember I asked you if you know Joe Tartaglia?
Yeah.
And you didn't
No,
know
I
him.
didn't know him, but
All right, so this little thing is actually a tree. Guess how tall it will grow?
probably about 6 feet.
Up to 23 feet.
23?
In some countries, it'll go up to 50 feet.
Wow.
So what I'm going to do with this
So it
is,
must be a climber then.
no, it's not a vine. It's an actual tree.
Oh, so it must get pretty thick.
It branches out.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So this little thing, I mean, this pot, folks, I hate to tell everybody, this pot costs $17. It is certified organic, but there's many years that go into just getting it this established. And one of the reasons, if you can afford it, to buy a pot this big instead of a smaller one of any herb or tree or shrub, or not tree or shrub, but herb, fruit, vegetable. You know, we're gonna have lots of tomatoes. We'll sell them this size and this size. We'll sell them much bigger. Is the root system. So the root system is much more established on this.
Right.
This is sort of a baby.
Yeah.
This is like a grandfather, and then here's your parsley. That's like the mother or father. There's sort of in betweens. So this is going to get much bigger. You'll be able to cut it back. You should transplant it in a bigger pot. As the roots go down, the plant goes up. As the roots are searching for water, the plants are searching for sunlight, and it does what God intended it to do.
Right. I could plant in my backyard too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you could, except for bay leaf does not.
Doesn't winter?
It can. I mean, it could take a snow, but it's so expensive, and it's going to take so long for it to get as big as this stool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plant this, let's say, in a pot like this big, and then when it gets big enough, then maybe put it outside. It's going to survive much better on your deck in the in season. The warm season. Out when it comes cold, you bring it inside, put it by your window, give it lots of light. Now, one thing I noticed that Koopman's had some mandevilla, I think it's called. I'm not sure if I'm even pronouncing it right, but they had a nice product over there. I saw it on their Facebook page or whatever, and so we don't take those things. We don't sell those things. We're trying to concentrate on the herbs, the vegetables. There's a big movement for vegetables and fruits and things like that. We'll have tons of certified organic, varieties of those. As I mentioned, Sal is one of the, or the largest supplier in the Northeast. But anyway, back to the mandevilla. What will happen is people will take that plant, which is a flowering plant, they'll put it outside when the weather moderates, bring it inside for protection. Now, great product, why not protect it? In other words, even if it would survive, if you put it inside, it will thrive. Same thing with thinking about geraniums. We're coming up to geranium season because for Mother's Day, now there's a lot of cemetery baskets and things like that unfortunately, if your mom has passed away, that you'll want to decorate her grave with something nice. And
Yeah.
of course, moms like, geraniums. But a geranium, I don't know if I'd classify it as a perennial, but in fact, it is a perennial. We don't sell it that way. In other words, we don't guarantee
you can't leave them out.
Right, but do you know the difference, Harry, real quick? We only have a few minutes left of annual and perennial.
Perennials come up every year, and annuals are 1 year, and that's
Right.
it.
So if you want a lot of flower, a lot of color in your yard, folks, and you want to change it constantly, get an annual. It comes and it goes. You hate it, the cheaper. You pull it out, and even in season, and just replace it with something that you see at an area garden center.
Geraniums, you got to take them in, put them in the basement, water them once a month, and
See?
then when it gets warm again, you can bring them back out.
Now, see, I didn't know that, and that's where I was going with this, folks. That a geranium, we don't sell it as a perennial, but in fact, it is a perennial. And so, getting back to my grandfather, Herb Henderson, I remember going in his basement on Crescent Street and seeing the geraniums in
Yeah.
the basement. So, tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, you bring them in before frost.
Right, but they don't need fertilization. They
No.
go dormant, right?
They go dormant, but they still need a little bit of liquid refreshment. So you got to water them a little bit, not a lot of water, but a little bit once a month
Okay.
to keep them alive. And you'll see they'll turn like a light green, almost a white stem. Then you put them out and they'll green up again as the chlorophyll starts getting back into their
So that you want
system.
those not roots, but branches. What's the word? What I'm looking for? Not the branches, but
The stems.
The stems. You want them pliable. So do you know Wayne Mezett from Western Nurseries?
No.
Well, he was a good friend of mine. Taught me a lot about the business when I was in Uxbridge Fairgrounds. But one thing he taught me is if you see this stem here, when you're trying to figure out if your brush or trees and shrubs are good or not, or have to be destroyed, if it's pliable, like where Harry and I were talking about, if it bends, it's salvageable. So pliable, salvageable. If it breaks, it's junk. It's no good. You cut it back to where the pliable and the dry part meet, and then you throw off the rest, and then it will
Right.
regenerate.
Yeah.
So the reason I brought that up is one of the things will differentiate Lovey's from some of the area garden centers. We'll have a whole big selection of containerized trees and shrubs and things like that. There's a really cool plant. I call it a rubber plant. The leaves are actually feel like rubber.
Yeah.
And some other
Good
favorite.
house plant.
What? Well, no, it's actually an outdoor plant.
Oh.
I just can't remember, because it's been quite a few years since I sold that stuff. But there's plenty of places in the area who are selling some fantastic stock. Pizza Oasis down the street has some wonderful things. Koopman's is loaded to the gills with some real quality, and hopefully we can rise to the occasion and join them in the ranks of selling a nice quality product.
Right,
So I can see that we're running out of time here.
Yeah,
and
we're going to wrap it up. The next show is going to start. The computer will shut us off. So you're down there, and people come on down. You have a snack.
Yeah, it won't be long now, folks. Harding's.
When were we going to be out in the pond?
Yeah, I was just going to say, so we have 3 boats. I just bought another one a few days ago. We have our insurance. We are talking to the conservation about putting a deck out there. Not a deck, a dock. So at some point, people can go out there and actually sit on the dock and fish. In the wintertime, you'll sit on the dock and tie your laces on your skates or have a little rest. And that's coming very, very soon. So there was just a great article, if I could give myself a cheap plug, as if an hour wasn't enough.
Right.
In the Uxbridge Times, it talked about our skating for winter events, but boating is coming very soon. Electricity allows us to have our aerator for our shiners. I made a joke on Facebook today that there's a lot of shiners in Alabama who are not going to be happy that Lovey's has electricity now, because we can aerate the water and have some shiners, and yeah, we're ready to go. And of course, grab our worms from Cormac.
Cormac.
Now, Harry, what about that 1,000 I want to borrow for bait for a while? Can you let me hold 1,000
Talk to
for?
Cormac. You got more money than me. And new signs coming.
I don't know, Harry. I still think they're selling hamburgers, not signs.
All right, I'm telling you, take a look at it. All right, hey, we got to go. We'll be back next week, and I'm guessing that I believe my guess is Kelly from Blue Circle Advisors. Don't quote me on that. I'll know when I check my book next time. All right, see you next week.
Thanks, Harry. Thanks very much.